All right, we're back, and yes, the 1941 can easily has the same gun, well, it has the same elite penetration as the APAG round, which is the better round because it has better ankle performance. So yeah, that is a fair compare. I would have put the 1941 in instead of the 1942 because I feel like comparing a 4.0 to a 3.3 isn't fair, but comparing a 3.7 to a 3.3 is a lot more fair comparison, I feel. So yeah, it says it's vulnerable to rank 1 anti-tank and anti-aircraft guns, but I mean that's probably that's probably like most stuff. A lot of stuff has very weak things, so that's fair. Has narrow tracks and has poor grounded flotation. Thus, it has bad off-road capabilities, prone to damage to artillery barrages. Ammunition storage is vulnerable to cooking off, may tip over when traveling over slight inclines. A shot through hull vision blocks turret ammo supply and hull. Spawns ammo and lucky shot might even take the Sherman out. Has a high profile and cast hull creates 100 respawns, which is true. Which is I think is like these little areas here. This like curve bit here is where the weak spots are. So I guess I just gave people a thing for that. Hopefully, you know, we don't get on 21. So yeah, let's look at the real life. We looked a bit at the thing, so I'm going to look at the armament of it. The gun development, I guess, yeah. So it has, I'm going to look at, I think the main thing they use is the 75mm, a 3-inch. They did use the 105 howitzer, but that was used for the 105. So, the lethalness and sharpness, the lethal shrapnel rounds in a 20-foot radius from HE round, the 75, 950. So they have 950 shrapnel from a 75, less for the 76. Max penetration on upsloped rolled homogeneous armor at 100 meters was 88 millimeters. It doesn't give these things for the other one. I don't know why, but for the 75, it does 88. Which is slightly weaker in game because it says rolled homogeneous armor up a hill, I think. Max penetration on unsloped, which means it hasn't been moved on rolled and homogeneous. So it does slightly weaker. It does like a 3. It does like about no, actually, it does the same. Yeah, it does the same at 100 meters with the good rounds. Well, actually, no, that's the main round. So that's probably they probably use the M72 rounds. They didn't probably use the M61 rounds until maybe later on. So that's actually a good comparison. So that's actually very accurate, I feel like. I think. And at least in that scenario. So let's go on. I will go on to like different fun facts about the history of the tank at the end of the video because I feel like that'll be nice to do, and instead of just looking at like the whole like, oh yeah, let's just compare facts and see which is better, because probably the game one's better because it's meant for a video game. It's not meant for real life combat. It's been done in a way, so it's better. But I just want to compare it still because I feel like it could be fun. So armor, it said from M4 range from 24 millimeters to 276.2. But that depends on the gun, 75. So I'm guessing this is the 75 and this is the 105. Or they're just like depending on the different types of tanks. I'm not 100% sure about that. Now that is actually that is actually very correct considering the turret is 76 on the front. So that is also correct. I mean, it's 0.2 off, but War Thunder hardly ever gives 0.2 in terms of armor. They might do it for like a couple British tanks, I think, but in terms of like American tanks, they always just give you the straight up number, at least, or like the majority of tanks, they just give you the straight up number. So yeah, that's cool. Angle to 30 degrees. The turret is. I'm going to have to look at that in game actually. I will actually look at that in game, and I will confirm at the end of the video if that is true or not. I think I will give them the benefit of the doubt though and say that it is. It says 18 to 71 turret front, so oh yeah, no, that's okay. No, forgive a mistake I made earlier in the video where I said that was minus. That is 2. That is meant to be like 58 to 76.2 depending on the angle of the turret. So it 30 millimeters degrees from the vertical, giving effective thickness of 87.9 is, I'm gonna have to look at that in game, but so far it doesn't really seem to give that high of a thing. It just says up to 71 degrees, and it just gives that as the max, it seems, at the turret front. But I will, of course, check that in game to make sure that's correct, because if it is, I feel like that's actually good. So I'll actually have that noted down, I guess. Do you know what? I'm gonna create a notes thing. This is gonna be nice for Notepad. So I'm just gonna it'll be nice to do. Yeah, I know it's not like dark mode, but whatever. Check to see if M4A1 has ever 80 plus millimeter on turret. Gives me a thing to check at the end of the video, you know, just to make sure that's right. And yep, okay. Oh fuck yeah, 87.9. The main gun was covered by 50.8. That is also true. Like, those are two good measurements. Like, the base measurements, I guess, are kind of there. In fact, that is actually the one time. Actually, no. I was wrong. I say they never said, but right here it says 76.2, 80.8, 50.8, which means that the two base things are. So I'm going to assume that that thing can go to 80 point thing, depending on 89.7, depending on where you look at it. So yeah, later models of the M4A3 were equipped with the T80 development for the T23 tank. I think that's just using like the different gun and the new 76 gun. So that's not the 75 gun that we're looking at. So yeah, the Sherman Glacius plate was, Glacius is military engineering of an artificial slope. Okay, yeah. It was originally 50.8 millimeters thick, at angled at 56 degrees from the vertical, providing an effective thickness of 90.8. So, hull 51. It's rounded up. It's rounded up from 50.8, so technically speaking, they are right. Hull 50.8, 48 to 6 degrees. Is that in the range of that? Yeah, I guess. So it is in that range, depending on the different curves. So, and obviously that's the different Shermans as well. It doesn't specify for the M4A1, so if it fits into that range, I will count that as like in there. So it has an effective thickness of 90.8. So can it get to 90.8? Doesn't really seem to. I'm gonna have to check if I can get to 90.8 anywhere on the front plate. But it can go to, on the front Glacius, it can go up to these things, but it's very weak, so maybe not. Maybe not. It doesn't have the same effective thickness, but that again depends on the Sherman, I guess, because this is more of a, doesn't go on, unfortunately this doesn't go on to the very specific Shermans. It only goes that way. A minute, hold on. Further is retained as previous glacier shapes after in respect of the larger hatches that are 38, which the majority of the vehicles had closer to 50 degrees. So I mean, since it's at a weaker angle, actually, so at 35, it'll actually have a weaker thing. So is that true? Is it true here? Oh crap. It doesn't mention the 30 to 58, does it? No. 37 to 58. Down from the vertical. In respect, okay, the cast hull for the M4A1 for the most part retained its previous glacier shape, even after the largest hulls were introduced. The casting, irrespective of the larger hatches, sat at 37 to 55 degrees from the vertical, with the large majority of the piece sitting closer to 55-degree angle. Okay, so it's slightly changed, but like, yeah, I mean, it seems pretty good. This is kind of, again, like I said, this is a general thing, you know. So it's not really fair to like look at it, I guess. In terms of that. says the upper hull rear was 38, which is true, I think. Yeah, that's 38.1. They get it very solidly right for a lot of things. Hull roof was 25.4. No, it doesn't say the roof was 25.4. Actually, no, never mind. The roof was 25.4. I'm corrected again on the, yeah. So yeah, 25.4. They love to correct me. Thick under the driver and assist side position to 12.7. Doesn't say 12.7, but that specific part isn't mentioned. So under the assistant driver position to 12.7. So maybe they'll have it in game. Probably will, considering the fact that they know what they're doing most of the time, at least in terms of armor. So far, at least for the Sherman, they know what they're doing. Like they know what to do. They know what to put it in. They've done the research more than I have, obviously, and they have looked at this tank and are like, yeah, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to put in. Oh wait, no, fuck me. 12.7 is right there. Again, I'm dumb. I mean, that's for the belly armor, which is the under area, but it says, if I'm mistaken, under the driver and assistant position is 12.7, which is, I think, the belly area. Yeah. So yeah, that's good. It's very, 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 very good. They've done the research on this tank, so yeah. Effectiveness. So it was most used against Axis tank, Panzer IVs with the 75, along with anti-tank fire weapons on multiple occasions. It was said it was needed to compound angle towards. It was said it needed to compound angle towards this later German tanks. So that's probably the later iterations of it. So the M4A1 went against other Panzer IV, earlier Panzer IVs, but later ones like the M4A2, M4A3, M4A4 went up against the later ones with better guns and all that. Which is true. The Waffenamt Professor reported estimate that an M4 angled at 30 degrees sideways and APBC round, the Tiger 1's 88 gun would be capable of penetrating the differential case of an angled from 2100 and from the turret from 1800. But the Tiger's 88 gun would not penetrate the upper glacis at any range, and that the Panther with its long barrel 75 would have to close in at 100 meters to achieve penetration at the same situation. However, others documented that suggest that the glacis could be protected at a range of about 800 meters by the Tiger 1. The Tiger 1 was estimated to be able to penetrate most others armor planes at a range of 2 kilometers or above, far exceeding the range at which the tank itself was vulnerable from fire from the Sherman. So it didn't seem, apart from the upper glacis, it didn't seem that very as a threat to the Tiger, but the Tiger was considered as a very good tank. So yeah, I might get into the Tiger sooner or later. Although later German medium and heavy tanks were greatly feared, the Buckley original Devassia imagery recorded in Normandy were inferior or more merely equal to the Sherman, the Panzer IIIs and IVs. So again, the majority of vehicles were considered outmatched or just as good, about as good, maybe as good as the Sherman. So that steeds to its thing. However, in game, it says that it lacks in comparison to T-34s and Panzer IVs. So, which it shouldn't, as they should be on an equal footing. I guess that's in comparison to them as a whole. So maybe the M4A1 would probably, be bad against the Panzer IVs and the later ones do show, I think, remember in-game that. But this is not a thing on Shermans as a whole. This is just the M1A1. I'm pretty sure, yeah, okay, this is just going on the M4 Sherman. I will look at the M4A1. There's not a thing on it. There's not a thing on the M4A1. There's only a thing on the Sherman, which sucks. It sucks, but you know what? It'll do. It'll do for now, considering it's late for me. It's 11 o'clock and I have to go tomorrow. But it's unfortunate, but yeah. So I think we've got to that. So let's get into a few little things. I'm going to randomly pick a thing and service. Just fuck it, service history. During World War II, approximately 19,000 Shermans were issued to the U.S. Army, and about 1,400 to the Marine Corps. The U.S. were also supplied about 17,000 to the U.K., some of which went to the Canadians and the Free Poles, while the Soviet Union received 4,100 of probably due to the Lend-Lease, and 800 were transferred to China, again probably due to the Lend-Lease program. These numbers were distributed further to rest of countries, allied nations, which is why you actually see that stuff in game. Yeah, you see different tanks such as them, but some of them could be due to like stealing them. Obviously, on the Germans, when Germans have KV-2 and a T-34, it's not because of the fact that they got them nice. They didn't ask nicely, So yeah, excuse me. The Marine Corps used the diesel A2 and the gas-powered A3 in the Pacific. However, the Chief of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Jacob L. Devers, ordered that the diesel-engine Shermans be used by the Army outside the zone of interior, the continental U.S. The Army used all types of training or tested with in the U.S., but intended the M4A2 and the M4A4 with the current engine that they have to be the primary Lend-Lease exports, which is the Lend-Lease program, I think, is basically they lend tanks to other nations to help them, basically. First combat, why not? The Shermans were exported into a feminization armed division return to the Western Desert Campaign. Axis forces had taken Turbach, which is in Libya. No, the more you know. We're advancing in Egypt, and British supply line through the Suez Canal was threatened. The U.S. considered collecting all Shermans altogether and sending them to be able to send 2nd Armored Division under Patton to reinforce Europe, but delivering the Shermans directly to Britain was quicker, and over 300, mostly M4A1s, but also including M4A2s, had arrived in September 1942. So, yeah. The M4A1 and the A2 were used in the African campaign. So, yeah. The Shermans were also modified for desert warfare. The Shermans first saw combat in the second battle of Al Alamein. I'm probably pronouncing that very poorly. In 1942, with the British 8th Army at the start of the offensive, there were 252 tanks fit for action. So yeah, about 300 had arrived by then, and since they first, about 50 of them weren't fit for. About like 48 weren't fit for action. I don't know, maybe I don't know. That's still a very good number though. The fucking vast majority were good, and they were probably like some of the first tanks were out there. So I think getting 252 tanks out of 300 is very good. I think these equipped the British 9th Armored Division for the battle under the New Zealand Division, 2nd Armored Brigade, and the 8th and 20 Armored Brigades. Their first encounter was with tanks of German Panzer IIIs and IVs, along with 50 and 75mm guns, engaging them at 2,000 yards or 1,800 meters. There were losses at both sides. In Operation Torch, the first U.S. Shermans in battle were M4s and A1s. In Operation Torch, which was an Allied invasion of the French North Africa during the Second World War, Torch was a compromise operation that met the British objective of securing victory in North Africa while allowing American armed forces to the opportunity to engage the fight against Nazi Germany on a limited scale on the following month. And it talks about 13 armored divisions lost 2 anti-tank guns, just a loss of that. So yeah, I think they did well, And let's go into the Lend-Lease. So under the Lend-Lease, 4,102 and 4,102. I thought that was a fucking different gun. I'm sorry. I'm dumb. M4A2s was sent out to the Union. 2,000 were equipped with their original 75, and 2,095 were equipped with the more capable 76. Total number of tanks. Oh Jesus! 18.6% of all Lend-Lease Shermans were under the USSR, which is wow. The first 76 armed M4A2 started to arrive in the late summer of 94. So a lot of them were just like the main 76s, but they used the M4A2, which was a superior to the M4A1. But yeah, that's still interesting. I feel like this is very interesting. The Red Army considered the M4A2 to be less prone to catching fire than to detonation than the T-34 76 gun, but the M4A2 had a higher tendency to overturn in road accidents and collision because of much tougher terrain than the T-34 due to its higher center of gravity. That's probably, I think, where most people find, I think, the T-34 to be better. And just due to its ability for off-roadness, and the M4 and the Shermans kind of lack in that department. However, I feel like being less prone to catch fire due to ammunition detonation is a bigger win in my book. I don't know. And probably a very important thing for America, the Pacific Theater, it was also in there as well. I think this is where the M4A1 was, so I think I might focus more on that. During the early stages of the campaign, specifically the Guadalcanal campaign, I actually surprisingly said that right. They used light tanks. They used the Stuart light tanks against the Hagos light tanks with lightly armored 37. However, an M2 was produced by that. The Chiha mediums with Allied forces were replacing their light tanks. Were quickly replacing their light tanks with the M4s. Chinese in India received 100 M4s, and they used them to greatest effect. And subsequent to 1944 and 1945, the offensive in the Chinese Burma India theater. To counter the Sherman, the Japanese developed the Type 3 Chinu and the heavier Type 4 Chito, which are two Type 4s built non-SOC combat. They were originally defense of the Japanese home islands, leaving 1930s area medium light tanks to do battle against the 1940s built Allied and medium tanks. And yeah, that's just going through, During the later years of the war, general high explosive ammunition was preferred for fighting Japanese tanks because armor-piercing rounds, which have been best designed for penetrating thicker steel, often went through the thin armor. They literally, to put this in War Thunder terms, they basically decided, goddamn, we gotta use bigger HE because our rounds are just straight up over-penning. That's actually fucking funny. It's like, Christ above, our rounds are doing too well. We need to cut it back and just hold up on the bigger boom. They really went for the boom later in the war, let's just say that. During the later years of the war, the general proposed high explosive, and which has been designated for producing higher thin armor, most commonly encountered Japanese tank out the other side while stopping. Although the high velocity of the tank destroyers were useful for penetrating fortifications, M4s were often deployed with flamethrowers and were often deployed as such as fire. I would actually like to see a flamethrower M4 Sherman in game. I know that was mainly used for like stuff, but we have the Churchill Crocodile, we have that new Soviet thing that's in game now, so I think Sherman with a flamethrower is in the deal. I'm not going to talk about the Korean War or other uses because I feel like it goes way past the, we're literally in this territory, I think, nearly. Yeah, we're in this territory here when it comes to that. Which really goes past what this is meant to be. So yeah, the M4, yeah. And you know what, closing comments before I end this video, I think that Sherman's a very good tank, and it made me look at this, really made me have a better view on it, and also made me have a better view on how War Thunder conducts its research, and how accurately it does do its research a lot, and that it is actually very good, I think, yeah. It does well. And you can't really disagree. Well, at least for the Sherman, at least for this tank, at least. Because how many tanks are there in the game? There's totally a ton of them. I probably haven't gone through enough, but for the Sherman, at least the M4A1 Sherman, they are very accurate with it. So yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. I will have to check something. I'm going, I mean, I could just actually do this. Showing game. Oh yeah, because I don't have the game loaded. I'm not loaded in. I'm not logged in. War Thunder. Open. Fucking hell. So yeah, I'm gonna turn off the recording. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this video. If you have enjoyed, please leaving a like, please consider subscribing, and turn on notifications if you're new, so you'll know whenever I upload. So that's all I have to say today. Bye. So after a few minutes of testing, I've come to the realization that there is a bit of if I were to go like around here, if I yeah, you can at like you at 2100 you can't, well 2000, because you can't go past 2000 meters in War Thunder, unfortunately, no matter how hard you try. That can go through the front plate of that at 2000 meters. So it could probably do it at 2100 maybe, and it can kind of go through the turret like here. It can't like this whole right side of it, I know it doesn't show. Maybe if I can get a better side of it. They have terrible front-on pictures. Okay, so this side, okay, imagine like this side, but like flipped over and doesn't have this thing, this like little plate here, this quadrilateral plate over here. You can't pen that. You can pen this part of it, kind of. There's areas where it's going to be red, and if you switch it to 1800, there's areas that you can pen, like it's a lot more green in those areas. So, there is a difference, but it doesn't seem as like. I feel like the thing is making it out to be more, and I'm going to assume. I'm going to assume that this is accurate, that it can only do it at that distance. Yeah, like that you can do it for there. So yeah, at a side angle of 30 degrees. Okay, yeah. Would not penetrate at any range. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think they can. It needs to be at 100 meters to achieve a side penetration. I don't think they need to be at 100 meters. I think actual, like in game, it's a lot better. So in game, they made it a lot easier to kill side on, I think. Yeah, and Sherman 76, they could go through the front plate without angling. So yeah. Okay, I feel like there is definitely an knock each other at a normal combat distance below 1,000. At longer range, the performance of each respective tank would depend on the crew and the combat situation. Okay, so let's look at the IS-2s and the 122s. Soviet ground trial testing at 1943 of the pierced 1934 frontal beam nose from 1500 and the frontal hull from 1500. The 84s was defeated between 100 and 1400 at a side degree angle of 30 degrees, while the Soviet one was estimated to penetrate the front between 200 and 500 at a side angle of 30 degrees to the incoming round. Soviet testing showed that the 85mm gun could penetrate the front of a Tiger from 1,000 with no side angle. So they did angle their tanks! Oh my god, angling is historically accurate. Who would have guessed? At a side angle, the degree of this 122 would be defeated. This 122mm hull of the 122 would be defeated between 100 and 300, so anything past 300, nope. And the front of the driver's nose could penetrate anywhere between from 15 to and 2,500, depending on the impact angle. However, according to Steven Zaloga, the IS-1 and the IS-2 could knock each other at a normal combat distances below 1,000 at longer ranges. The performance would depend on that. And I'm not going to go on the Churchill. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the Churchill order stuff, but yeah, it does seem to be. They made it definitely I feel like they kind of made it a bit stronger in game, but yeah, relatively speaking, the Tiger is, for the most part, accurate to its real life counterpart. The Tiger H1, it's accurate to its real life counterpart. The engine has the same amount of horsepower, however, it doesn't have the same speed as faster IRL. The weight, I think I mentioned weight somewhere. Also, can't remember where it mentioned weight at all. Wait, I could search it up actually. Maybe. Could I search it up? Could I search it up? Could I search it up? Search, is there a search thing? I'm probably, your guys are gonna be fucking flaming me in the comments, but I can't see a search thing. Well, okay, I know this, but that's a search like different stuff. Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay. Oh, it does have 92 rounds. Oh wait, no, there's actual stuff here. So yeah, 690 HP. Found one that does do 650, so I don't know. 25 to 120, okay. Has 5 crew, excellent. 54 tons. It has 57 tons. 57 tons. Yeah. This seems very good. This, yeah, okay, okay, okay. 13 PS per ton. It's 11 horsepower per. It's not horsepower though. That's not in horsepower. That's in PS. I have no idea what PS is. Okay, 700 PS is about 690 horsepower. Okay, what is PS? What is PS? As a unit of power. Yes. Oh. Ferdstaka is a metric measurement of horsepower. Is equivalent to 98 point. So it's effectively nearly the same. So 13 would actually probably, let's say, okay, I'm too tired to do maths. I'm too tired to do maths. It's effectively the fucking same, man. It's about the same. 8 forward and 4 reverse. That is true. It does have 8 forward gears. Where's the speed on it again? Just bid. It has. Yep, that is completely true. It definitely maximum speed 40. Okay. Okay. Oh, I know. I already said that. Yeah. It does well. It does well. I think there's obviously a few things that they did change to it. Wait a minute. Hold actually on a minute. Okay, no, it was right. Okay, so they did get it right, actually. Never mind, then. Never mind. However, that's with that engine. Actually, never mind. That's with that engine. That's with the Maybach 220. But the 210, they didn't. So they kind of mixed the Maybach, or the Maybach HL210, with the Maybach 2 whatever. They mixed the 210 with the 230, so they have the speed of the 230 with the other thing with the horsepower of the 210. That's definitely what they got there. Oh, sorry, I'm tired. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you're new, and peace out, gentlemen and ladies, and whatever.